And we're going to learn a little bit more on the backstory of Radovan Renier, and a little bit maybe more why he does what he does and he is the way he is.
Okay. So, I know I'm front-loading you guys with a lot of information, so I apologize for that.
That's the
Radovan,
point.
I guess that's the point. Radovan Renier was not... No one knows where exactly he was born. The first thing you know about him was that he was left as in a desert city of Deverdek, in an orphanage, with the plate that says Radovan Renier. So... he was raised in foster care for the first 5 years of his life, maybe. And, it's rough going. It's a desert city. There's a lot of poor. The princess, the guy who runs the village, runs the city, is known as a son child named Jasmar, who has some powers. But he's kind of corrupt, kind of a douche, cares more about the upper class instead of the lower class, and the orphanage suffers for it. So it was a tough upbringing. Until one day, this man named Connor Winden, an older man, came to adopt a boy, and he saw the strength in Radovan Renier. It turns out Connor Winden had been a priest of St. Cuthbert, but had been expelled for being a bastardly coward, essentially, who failed to follow through with the point of the order. Just for those who play Dungeons and Dragons, he had been Connor had been a part of the Star's clergy, whose symbol is a starburst, which seeks to enforce doctrinal purity amongst those already dedicated to the saint. So his job was essentially Connor's job, not Radovan's, had been to seek out the impure or to enforce the doctrinal way of St. Cuthbert within the order. So he would, go around, but this was a taxing thing for him, and it ultimately ended with him cowarding out, backing out, bowing out, saying, no, I'm not doing this. So he saw Radovan and he was like, I can hide, I can mask my failure and my shame in this boy. So he took Radovan Renier to this old defensible fort along the eastern road north of, I know that's weird to say, eastern road, it's the eastern road that goes to the north, to this place called Hammerguild. And there, Radovan was born and raised by Connor in the ways of St. Cuthbert from a very early age. And, the main book that most priests have is called St. Cuthbert and Common Sense. It's basically a short book. It's narrowed down with the tenets and principles and, who, what, why, where, what you're here for. And Connor wanted to raise Radovan to basically replace him within the order, kind of like to mask his failure and his cowardice. Connor was not a very nice man, though. He was very abusive. He was verbally abusive, physically abusive. He put strict boundaries on Radovan's upbringing as Radovan was a child. He was not allowed to leave a certain territorial area around Hammerguild, under the premise that it's a dangerous world and Radovan wasn't ready. He was too weak. He was not there. He was not apt to do it. Radovan found another book, a scripture, which is not allowed within St. Cuthbert's order, called The Tales of the Vulgar Fool. And it's foul heresy to have this book, but Connor wanted to use it to basically reinforce what the tenets were. Like, he wanted to use it for the good of the book, even though it's not. But it definitely has some anti-Cuthbert notions in it. Radovan was a troubled kid. He would play this game called How Far Can I Go? Where basically by day, when he was given the time and outside of his teachings and lessons, not within the order, he would try to test how far he could go outside of the boundaries that his adopted father, had put him. And, he would always chicken out. He would always be like, oh, he's going to find out, I'm going to get a beating, this is going to be horrible. So this went on. There was a room in the house that Radovan Renier was born in that had the Morning Star, which had been his father's weapon when he was in the order. And a Morning Star, as you guys know, is like basically a stick with a giant metal ball with spikes on it, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what a Morning... There are variations of what a Morning Star is. Like, some of it's more flail-like. There's a chain attached to it, and you can swing it around like, like Rasa was trying to do on the tree.
The grappling hook.
Grappling hook. Yeah, it just sounds sexual, right? It's basically a giant testicle with spikes. I'm just going to say that, manly thing. But
Got
anyway. It. His upbringing, Radovan's upbringing was not, as you know, was not good. And he would try to, he was a troubled kid. He would flaunt the rules, but he also listened. Like, he did learn things. And, his adopted dad was not against him reading other books. So, Radovan definitely got a sense of his surroundings, about the histories of things. Mostly self-taught, but there are other people in the village who, helped him along. Like, as long as he was within the territorial bubble that his adopted father allowed him, he was learning things. And then one night, when Radovan was 17 years old, he had pushed farther than he had ever pushed before in terms of going outside the rules and world that he was allowed to be in. And his father, of course, found out. And a fight occurred between him and his adopted father, Connor. And it ended horribly. Essentially, Radovan killed his dad. By pushing him into a table, an overturned table, smack your head, your blood flows. That moment was, of course, one of Radovan's greatest shames. I mean, it wasn't intentional, but it was definitely like, look, I'm 17, I'm a kid. Leave me the fuck alone. I've been doing this for so long. I want to see what the outside world is. So there you go. So what would you do? You're in this village, you can surrender to the authorities, but Radovan's a kid, and he's been learning the ways of St. Cuthbert, and he believes in St. Cuthbert, and he wants to appeal to him, and this god, he wants to make it work. He steals the mace, the Morning Star, from his dad, and he retreats to this rough city far to the west called Trenos, where there is a faction of the Order of St. Cuthbert. And, St. Cuthbert's factions are typically small cathedral. They're not like huge chapels. They're kind of downtrodden, practical, military, forceful places, So Radovan basically throws himself at the mercy of the people, of the priests, and says, I want to learn your ways. I want to be like you. I want to, fully embrace it, to repent for his past, as well as find a future, because he doesn't want to go to jail, and he doesn't want to be captured. It was an honest mistake. He did not intend to kill the guy his adopted dad unfairly, despite their checkered history. And that is essentially where Radovan gets his beginnings as an actual priest in the order. He goes through all the motions, he goes through all the things, but he's never fully satisfied. There's a burning question he's always wanted to ask, which is who the hell left him on this orphanage with the name Radovan Renier. And this is why whenever he introduces himself, he says Radovan Renier. He doesn't say my name is Radovan. He says Radovan Renier, hoping that the people he's talking to recognize the name. Now, he has long since suspected that Renier is not a last name, that it could be a middle name, that his name is Radovan Renier something. But of course, this is all speculation on his part, because he has said Radovan Renier to everybody, and no one seems to know who Renier is, and he wants to find out. Within the priestly order of St. Cuthbert, he joined the chapeaux, which has symbols of crumpled hats, and their purpose is to convert people into their faith. So this allows Radovan to travel abroad, to try to indoctrinate people, like proselytize, of course, and, it fits his morality alignment. He's a lawful, neutral character. It's, of course, does he actually succeed in converting people? Well, that's another question, right? Especially since he's gotten into this thing, he's kind of been off-putting more than accepting. I think he uses it mostly as an excuse to find out where he actually came from, Radovan Renier. And of course, like any checkered, troubled starts, you do mirror your adopted parents or your parents, their traits and habits. Connor Winden was a racist in many ways. He did not like elves, he did not like dwarves, and whenever those subjects were brought up, he was inundated with curse words and, horrible things about those respective races. Radovan feels that. And he also has some first-hand experience, which I will get into later. I don't have to get into right now. I kind of want to leave that for another section, maybe later on in the recaps. Why he's racist. I will say that Radovan is a heavy drinker. He does love his whiskey, and that's the drink that his dad drank, his adopted dad drank. It's, it's also his way of masking his own troubled past. And of course, it doesn't always make you happy because you wake up hungover, but it is a habit that is instilled in him from observation, from experience, and from trouble, the checkered past that he has had. And that's pretty much it. I mean, Radovan was sent by the Trainos group to go around and convert people. Radovan spent most of that time trying to find out who the hell he really was, where he really came from, drinking at nights, hooking up with any woman who would have him. Mostly, he doesn't, the Lucy types. But, he's a player of sorts, right? I mean, he lives according to his own way. Fact, can't deny it. But he definitely still has that Morning Star, which is his adopted dad's. If Reza or Kia dares ask him about his armaments, most notably that Morning Star, Radovan will clam up for sure. He will not talk about it. And he also does not want to talk about his adopted, he doesn't even want them to know that he was adopted, for sure, because, that is his most shameful moment in his life, as far as he knows, is the accidental murder of his adopted dad, who was no saint, but still, it wasn't right. I mean, definitely according to St. Cuthbert, you kind of reap what you sow. And Radovan, that's essentially what he's all about, right? Like, those bandits who wanted to steal the cart full of tonic, Radovan, of course, defended. It was like, oh, hell no, you're not getting by me. But then he wanted to steal them in return. He wanted to rob them back. That's kind of like eye for an eye. That's kind of his mentality. Like, if we are not breaking a particular law, but something is not right or something Radovan doesn't agree with, he will try to reverse it. He will definitely try to say, okay, it's on you now. Oh, you tried to put this magical... Like, I would not be surprised if the story unfolds however it unfolds. I think secretly what Radovan wants to do with this tattoo on his left forearm is remove it and place it on the people who captured him and did this to him. Like, in his mind, that's the ultimate retribution and punishment, justifiable to the extreme. Unwanted death, you blow up hooded mysterious figures, not me. Of course, probably won't come to that, but that's how he's thinking. And that's, he's very straightforward in that regard. Like, that's what he's about. And I think, that's mostly what I wanted to talk about today, in terms of who Radovan is. You kind of get a sense of him.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Gorbad, the Dungeon Master on How Reroll. If you'd like to follow my personal channel, it's twitch.tv/Gorbad, or on my other social media, @Gorbad for Twitter, or @GorbadTV for YouTube.
Hi guys, I'm Bane. You want to hang out with me some more? You can find me on twitch.tv/Bane1271, Twitter @Bane1271, or Facebook and YouTube under Bane Blackstar. See you guys soon.
Hello, my name is Shagget, and I play Radovan Renier, a cleric on How Reroll. You can follow me on www.twitch.tv/Shagget.
Hey, I'm Jane. You can follow me on my personal channel at twitch.tv/JaneIvana, or if you'd like on my Twitter @JaneOnTwitch with a 0, not an O. Peace.